Good afternoon, YouTube. My name is Brandon. Today's episode is a little bittersweet because we are wrapping up this tractor rebuild project. We're going to refinish the mower deck, we're going to get some tubes in the tires, and if everything goes well, maybe we'll even cut some grass. Stick around. Welcome back, guys. We're in the home run stages of this project. We're almost done. Today we're going to go over this mower deck. We're going to strip it down, figure out any of the problems that it has, fix them. I think we got some welding to do, and I'm going to show you a product towards the end of this video. It's pretty spectacular. You can actually paint over rust with it. It'll make this mower deck last for years to come. This is a piece of damage that we got to fix. Look how that leg is like bent. I've already loosened up the wheel, but you can see how, you know, this wheel has been run like that for a while because that's actually cut at a bevel now as compared to, you know, how this wheel is. It's beveled there, flat, beveled there. These we're going to take off simply just so I can clean them up. This one here is actually missing a bolt, and if you look real close, it's got a crack right there in the weld. So we'll have to take that apart and weld that up. So here I'm just using a cordless impact to speed up the process. Really like using this. I literally have an air hose probably 15 feet from me. It's just so convenient. I've got it all scraped down, chipped, as far as we're going to go with it. Now we've got it all wiped down with thinner, and it's time for us to apply a top coat. So this is that top coat I was telling you guys about. It's called Chassis Saver, and you can literally paint right over rust, and it's made by a company called Magnet Paints. This stuff is pretty expensive. It is so durable once it's on, and you can see kind of like some spilled paint here. It almost feels like porcelain. It's so hard, but you can spray this and you can also apply it with a brush. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to put it on with a brush, and this stuff is incredible. Like I said, you can paint over rust with it. It's salt resistant, it's chemical resistant, it's gasoline resistant. When you use this stuff though, if you're going to be using this inside, I forewarn you, this stuff is brutal. It stinks. You're going to want to wear a respirator. I'm doing it outside, so I won't have any problems. But if you get this on your skin also, it's not coming off. You're not getting it. It's not going to come off your skin without grinding it off. So wear gloves when you do this. I'm serious. It'll be on your skin for a month. Alright guys, so like I said, make sure you're wearing your gloves when you're messing with this stuff. Wow, looks like the cover's welded on from the last time I was using it. Jeez, sounds like we're in Beirut. We got helicopters going around and sirens in the background. And I would encourage you to not work out of the can, but to work out of a separate container so that you don't spoil with the contents of the can. Here we go. These are the blades I'm using. Don't know a lot about them, but they're called the Extreme Hardness and Toughness mulching blade. So yeah, they feel like quality. They feel, there's a little bit of information on the internet about them, and they sound like a pretty decent blade. So we'll give them a whirl, and they weren't a whole lot of money. Now I also have a little bit of Loctite on these. I mean Never Seize, not Loctite. Now, you probably don't need Loctite, but you probably should put a little Never Seize on them. We just got some supplies in, so that gives us something else we can do. This whole next process really isn't that difficult. It's just time consuming more than anything. Where it starts to get real difficult is, because you got to be careful, is when you're putting the tube in the tire, because you want to be careful not to pinch the tube as it goes on. You just follow a few basic steps though and it'll come right together. Alright guys, here's a little tip if you're going to put tubes in your tires, and the reason I know this works is because I've made this mistake before. When you clean up your rim and you get it down to this point, you're going to want to run your fingers over it and make sure that there's nothing on here that is going to be sharp, poke, or cut, because this seam right here is like MIG welded together. A lot of times there'll be like a little piece of wire or a little stub that sticks out, or even just a little BB that could actually puncture the tube of the tire. So what I did here is I just went over it with a flap wheel real lightly into this, and then I just wire wheeled this real light. And then what I'll do is now I know that there's no sharp edges anywhere around the inside of this wheel. I'm just going to go hit it with a coat of paint. That'll keep it from rusting. But something that a lot of people don't think about comes from the tire, and this is where my problem arose. I put it all together, put the tire, the tube, and the wheel all together, pumped it up, and the tire went flat, and I thought I must have a hole in my tube. Well, a lot of things that you don't think about is, what if you have something like stuck in your tire, like maybe just a little tiny finish nail? So what I do now is I take a flashlight and I inspect all the way around the tire.
How you doing, Grampy? You're doing a good job.
What are you doing?
Just checking up on and see how you doing it. Power tools.
So with the tires all on, let's go fabricate those parts that we need for the mower deck. So the first thing we got to do is dig out our material thickness gauge and figure out what it is we need to build here. So according to this 14 gauge, it's a little fatter than 14, but it's a little thinner than 8th. So there's 16 gauge, 14 gauge, 12 gauge would fit this about right, and 1/8 inch is a little sloppy. So I think what we're going to do is we'll dig through our pile and we'll try to find some 1/8 inch material, make this a little bit better product when we're done. I found some 1/8 inch plate. It's got a little bit of a bend in it. I don't think that that's going to matter. And again, I confirmed it with my material thickness gauge that says 1/8 inch right there. So in order for us to get a good template, we're going to have to fold these edges down. You see how they're all rolled around? They're all bent. So we need to fold this down flat so we can get a good template out of it. This is going to be an excellent plasma cutter project. One of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to fasten our template, which is the existing piece, to our new piece of metal. With the piece all clamped up, let's get the plasma cutter set up. I've got my air line connected to the back, And we're currently plugged in on 220 power. But the great thing about this plasma cutter is that it's dual voltage. It can work on 220 or 120 power. And let's see. I don't know. Let's go 40.
Another way of doing this is you could just trace out the piece and freehand it, but I think you're going to get a far better product doing it this way. So we again have our existing piece slid ahead about 1/8 of an inch from the actual cut line where we need it, and I just run right along the back edge of it. Super easy, and it makes an exact duplicate part. Whenever you cut with a plasma cutter, it usually leaves a little bit of like slag behind. Not much, just a little bit. And here I'm just cleaning that up with an angle grinder, rounding off any edges and just making it look good, finishing it up. And now I'm punching it out, matching up the holes. I used a center punch kit. I could have burned them through with the plasma cutter, but I just chose to drill them.
And here it is, guys. All it needs right now is just a coat of paint, and it is ready to be put on. And we built this with a minimal amount of tools.
And now I'm just finishing up the last piece. Same thing as the first, just smaller, and you can kind of see the process. Just because it is smaller, it fits in the frame better. So here we go. Let's get these parts on and see how they fit. I'm using new hardware here. It's just 1/4 carriage bolts with a locking type nut on the top side, and I'm just buzzing them on with the impact. I mean, you could see how easy this part was to build, and it saved us $71 by building them versus buying them, and they're a much better part because they're thicker, they're more heavy duty, and we dug them out of the scrap bin. Now, if you guys remember when we went over in episode 1, this was one of the parts that needed to be fixed. Some of those flanges were torn and just ripped a little bit. I didn't video me fixing those, but I just used the TIG welder and just tigged it up, fixed all the crack spots, painted it up to make them look new. Now we're getting this deck back on. It comes on really easy. First time I've ever had any experience with this type of implement, but I'm super impressed with it. I love how this overall project came out. And it's time to give my grandson a little bit of a ride.
And that's all there is to it, guys. What a project this has been. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this series. I had a lot of fun doing it. If you want to find out what I'm working on before it even makes it up to YouTube, you can click the links down below. You can catch me on Facebook and on Instagram. Tune in next week where we're going to fabricate and do some welding for some mounts for the back of this. Have a good day, guys. Thanks. See ya.